Hi, welcome to Creative Full Time, where I interview creative people here in Canada and find out how they're doing the damn thing. Today's guest is a personal favorite person of mine. Her name is Crystal Ferrier. She is a comedian, she's a baker, she's an author, she's a million things. This woman is insane. I don't know when she sleeps, but she's hilarious and I'm so excited to interview her. You may have seen her on Roast Battle Canada, seen her in a comedy club, or opening for Russel Peters. Today I'm talking to Crystal Ferrier.
Yay!
Yay!
Hi! Hi!
Hi! Thanks for coming on my podcast today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This
Absolutely.
is awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I like to start at, when did you know you wanted to get into comedy?
When did I know? When did I know?
What was your first gig? Like, how did you even start?
Okay, so growing up, my parents didn't really push me to the artistic side. It was more like academics, right? My brother, very musical, very talented. He was all up in the arts. But for me, they were like, you got a chance with the books. So how about you let him do that, but you got to focus on this. So I didn't really realize I had an artistic bone in my body until probably university, where I was doing my undergrad at York, and I was doing sociology, and they gave me the option to take electives. I was like, all right, cool, what should I take? And then there were all these theater courses open, and I was like, I'm terrified to speak or act or be on a stage, so I should challenge myself and just take one. And then I ended up taking all of them as my electives.
No way.
Yeah, I studied theater in York as well as sociology, and I fell in love with the stage then. But comedy-wise, it came years later. I was kind of dating someone, I fell off, and you know, it was kind of a bad situation for me. And a friend of mine that is a comedian as well, she was like, man, you're really funny, you should do comedy. And I was like, no, I'd always tell her no, and it's Keisha Brownie, by the way.
Okay, I was gonna ask, because like, was it Keisha?
You know her, comedian, very funny, Keisha Brownie. Yeah. And I was like, no, the whole time, you know, I was in a relationship. Then when it fell off, I was like, you know what, I want to do something wild, like, forget it. Let me try it. And I was living in Brampton, Queen and Kennedy, big up. Nobody ever does that. I was working at like Food Basics on Queen and Kennedy in Brampton and living across the street there. And there was a bar called Cece's up the street. And so Cece's had an open mic. I'm like, you know what? I'm right there. Let me go.
Nice.
And I literally did like, I don't know, 4 or 5 jokes all about my mom and being Indian and coming to Canada. And it was such a success, and it started this snowball effect. I got introduced to all these people. I did like big shows in the first few months, and I was really lucky like that.
Damn,
so,
that's awesome. That's wicked. It's almost like a Marvelous Mrs. Maisel vibe, where you're just like, bye, boyfriend, and now
exactly. So it was, absolutely. I was really lucky though, because not everyone gets just picked up by the community like I did.
Yeah,
so
fair. That's fair. Yeah. And I know you're personally a mentor to me, and I love you so much. She's my mama in comedy.
Yes.
But who was a mentor for you starting out?
You know what? I have to say that Kenny Robinson was my mentor. Still is my mentor. He's my dad in comedy, as I call him. But he'd always, you know, tell me when I'm wrong, which didn't always feel good. Yeah. You know, and then tell me when I'm right. And, you know, if a joke wasn't hitting, he'd help me with it. Or if it did hit, he'd be like, that's a good one, kid. Nice. You know, and then he'd give me advice about the ins and outs of the business. He'd tell me not to date comedians. He'd tell me, you know, like, you know, don't do this and don't do that. And, you know, so he is definitely my mentor. Nice. And I can honestly say every opportunity that I got was through the Nubian show and through him. Nice. Like I am always the first one. He'll tell you this too, that if somebody is looking for a comedian, he vouched for me first. Like,
wicked,
you know,
wicked. That's so nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome to have.
Him.
And you were the first headliner of his, first female Indian comic headliner?
Yes, I was. And that was like, I don't know, what was it, 5 years into my career, which is kind of unheard of. Yeah. You know, especially for the Nubian show, it takes a while to get on that show to even start. Yeah. But yeah, Kenny really took me under his wing, and he tested me though. You know, he made sure I was good, because you know what he would do is like, he had this system where he wouldn't, well, when I first met him, he's like, I'm not going to throw you to the Lions in Toronto.
Yeah.
So at that time, there was a Nubian show in Ajax.
Okay.
So he was like, come to Ajax. And I did a 5-minute spot in Ajax. And he's like, all right, yeah, that was pretty good. I'm gonna let you have Toronto now. And so
nice.
I got, you know, he starts you off at the top, you open the show, and then you go lower. And right before he's really testing you to headline, he'll make you follow like heavy hitters. So I remember at that time I followed Trix, and if you know Trix, he's like king of T-Dot, and like he doesn't even have to say his name at the end. He just drops the mic and everyone's like, oh my God, and then it's like, all right, Crystal Ferrier, and I'm like, perfect, here we go. But I did really well, you know, and then I got to headline.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How do you deal with following really good people? Like, do you get imposter syndrome that like seeps in of going like, what am I doing on the stage with this person?
I think there's always that voice, and I think any creative person has that voice. And I think it's our job, our duty to like just go shut the fuck up right away. Like as soon as I hear it, I'm like, no, I deserve this. I work hard for this. Yeah. You know, so and then I look at it like it's like a marathon, and he just passed me the stick, you know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, I got this. I'm going to the end, and I grab it and I use that energy, and I just do what I do. Right. You know, so nice. I like it. I like following harder acts.
That's wicked.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Challenges.
Did you ever take classes, or did you just jump into it?
No, I just jumped into it.
I
just jumped into it, and that's, I mean, besides the theater background, which helps with like being on stage, but no training in comedy. That's why I started doing my own training for up and comers as well.
Do you still do the classes?
I haven't in a long time because the pandemic kind of shut that down.
Fair.
And I was really, you know, I did develop a Zoom model of my course, but there's nothing like standing on a stage and showing someone how to hold a mic, what to do with the mic stand.
I think about that every time a comic doesn't know what to do with the mic stand. I was like, you should have taken Crystal's course.
You see, it's the basics that we don't learn, right? Yeah. So, but I will probably bring it back. I do a consult form right now. So like if somebody wants to pick my brain or go over jokes or that kind of thing, they can hit me up and I do like an hour consult.
Nice.
Yeah.
I frequently do.
Yeah, she does.
And I took her course, so when she starts it up again, like highly recommend. It's a great comedy course.
And I mean, we gotta give her flowers too. She was like my horse in the my front horse in the course. And I had an opportunity from Trey Anthony, who asked me, hey Crystal, like who's the funniest person in your course? I want to give them a spot. And I gave it to Allison, and she killed it. Surprise to Allison.
I saw the poster come out with my name on it, and it said "Women of Color" comedy show.
Listen, I knew you could handle it.
Hello, like message Trey. I was like, "Hey, so surprise."
Oh, I told Trey. She's like, "All right, cool."
That's hilarious. I was like, just so you know, the whitest of white.
Yeah.
but it was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was best show to date. It was so nice. Yeah. But yeah, that high after is so amazing.
It's crack. It's cocaine.
It's
people
so
don't know.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's wicked. Love it. So you wrote a book. I'll touch on before I forget. Yes. Tell me about the book, how you came up with the idea, etc.
Okay, so in the pandemic, obviously comedy was shut down, and I think, you know, among other people, I got really depressed and I started eating. I gained a little bit of weight. You know what I mean? It happens, as one does. And then I wanted some sort of creative outlet. And then I was, you know, my kids were home. I was reading a lot of books with my kids, and I'm like, oh my God, these stories are so boring. And it's just like, oh, so-and-so went into the forest and then got this. And I'm like, this is not real. You know, I wanted to inspire kids, and also I wanted books that had children that looked like mine in them. So I wrote my book called The Crown, and it really just was written to inspire children of color to follow their dreams, right? Because books, they're great if you tell a story, but I haven't read a book that's like, hey, you can go pick up a mic and go on stage and tell jokes and make a living out of it. You know, so that was my main thing, is that don't forget who you are. You're powerful. You are special. You are somebody that was put on the earth to do something. And, you know, if it's creative, go for it. Amazing. You know, so that was my main thing about the book.
Amazing. And where can people find your book?
You can actually find it, because I will not put it on Amazon. They take too much of my money. You can find it on my Instagram at Crystal the Comedian. There's a link there that you can get my book that comes directly from my workshop, which is my garage. And I will keep all that money and I will thank you for it. Amazon ain't getting none of this.
Yeah, they take a huge
I worked so hard for Amazon to take all of that.
That's fair.
Right?
That's fair.
So, yeah.
Do better, Amazon.
Yes. Come on.
So when you're starting comedy and figuring out jokes that work, jokes that don't, how do you... When was the first time, do you remember the first time bombing and how you got through that?
Sweaty. Yeah. So my bomb was a little bit different because my bomb wasn't necessarily with jokes. I was really lucky that, you know what, I've kind of like been able to be in tune with what people find funny. So that was, what happened was Trix was working at Flow at the time, and he had like a thing at Flow where, you know, he wasn't working for them anymore. And so, you know, he told all of us like, you know, I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna be like, F Flow. Right. And I was like, yeah, I'm on board with you, man. Like, you got treated unfairly. Like, you know, I'm all about this. So I went up and I was like, I didn't even say a joke. I came out and I was like, F Flow. And people were like, huh? You know, and then I just started doing jokes like it was normal, and people were like, no, like what are you talking about? You know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, why am I sweating? Like, why is this so hard? And then I got off and Kenny's like, you cannot bite the hand that feeds you, because Flow actually has commercials with our names on it.
Oh,
and
true.
I got up there and I was like, F Flow, without thinking. I was just thinking I'm supporting a fellow comedian.
Yeah.
So that was the closest I probably had to a bomb, was that silence. But it was my fault.
Yeah.
And I fully take it.
Yeah.
You know,
Does it keep you up at night?
No, because I'm like, you're so stupid. You know, it was back in the day.
Fair,
like if somebody was to do that to me now and be like, hey, I left this place, like you should, I'd be like, no, good for you.
That's
I'm
on
not
you.
trying to get canceled.
Yeah.
You know, so,
That's
but yeah,
fair.
I know better now, you know.
How do you deal with the whole cancel culture stuff? Have you struggled with it at all, or do you
sometimes,
find?
because you know, sometimes we get thoughts and we want to make them into jokes, but then I'm like, oh, Crystal, you are gonna get canceled. Please don't do that joke. And so I just put it in a little box and I put it away, because I'm like, I'm smarter. I can write better. I don't want to feel like I'm on the edge of that. Some people do it really, really well. I know I can't. I know I'm just like sound like a jerk. So
yeah, that's fair.
But listen, in my personal opinion, I think everything is okay. Like if you're the comedian and you're saying what you're saying, I think you could talk about anything, and I don't think you should be canceled.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just me. So
Yeah, I feel the same way, because I run an open mic and it's weird. Some people are like only non-offensive material, or you can say whatever you want. I feel like as long as it's a joke and not an opinion piece, then fine.
And that's
like,
that's your job as a comedian, to make it funny.
Yeah.
Right. If it's not funny, I'm gonna say it's not funny. I'm not gonna say, hey, I'm offended. I'm just gonna say that was a shitty joke.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So a lot of people want to do that. They want that shock factor. So they'll come out and make a statement that, you know, everyone's going to go, oh, but it's like, okay, that's a statement. Like, where is it funny? Where's the joke?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's not a TED Talk.
Right. And a shitty
Welcome
one.
to my shitty TED Talk.
Yeah. Exactly.
So funny. You've done a TED Talk, right? Or
like I've done a lot of like speaking gigs and things like that. So
nice.
Yeah, for sure. Is
that like to motivate people like into the creative side of things, or?
I mean, you know what it is? I've done a lot of corporate shows where you teach people how to use humor in their everyday lives.
Okay.
You know, so I've done a lot of those kind of talks.
You're saving corporations one business at a time.
Saving money in my bank account, because those are good gigs.
They are good gigs.
But yeah, it's just, you know what, like everything's easier when you put a little humor in it.
Yeah.
You know, so definitely needed.
What do you find is like a skill that comedians have to have if they're going to have a successful career in comedy?
Ooh, that's such a good question.
Thank you.
A skill you have to have, you have to be relentless. Because this shit will knock your ass down, and it will make you want to hide in your room and cry and eat donuts and then say it's a baking business. But yeah, man, you got to be relentless. If this is what you want, you got to go after it. And you know what? Like, you might not make it in 1 year, 2 years, 20 years, 30 years. You might not make it at all. And that's the beauty of it. It's like, what is your definition of making it?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what do you want out of this? And can you keep going? Because you never know. The day you quit might have been the day before you were about to make it.
Yeah.
You know? So you got to be relentless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you gotta love doing it otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, definitely.
I had an open mic last night. People were coming out there like, oh, I'm doing comedy for free. I'm like, no one asked you to be here. It's open mic. You came here.
It's brutal. The scene can be really, especially now, because I feel there's so much access to comedy that everybody thinks they're a comedian.
Yeah.
And I think that's like, I don't know, it's made it harder for comedians who are actually working comedians who do this for a real life job.
Fair.
But, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah. How have you seen the industry change? First of all, how long have you been doing comedy? Maybe we should tell people this.
Honestly, I said the other day, I said 16 years, but I think it might be a little bit longer. I don't remember, but I think 60. I started in my 20s.
Nice.
Yeah.
Don't do the math.
I know. I'm turning 41.
That's all right.
And like on Sunday.
You look younger than me, and I'm like a decade
younger. Stop this.
So it's all right. You can keep it.
Nah.
But yeah, so how have you seen the industry change from like when you started to now?
Yeah, it's definitely not just a mic and a stage anymore. It's more of a business now where there is access to everything. You have access to stars on Instagram. You have access, people have access to you. And so it's the whole change of social media where now you don't have to hold a mic in your hand and stand on a stage and do open mics at bars and get booed and get paid in chicken wings and do the whole grind.
Yeah.
You can be a comedian on Instagram and you will sell out theaters.
Yeah.
That's just how it is. And you may not be funnier. You may be funnier, but you may not be funnier. It doesn't matter. Like, you can gain access to an audience online on your couch with no pants on.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas like I put pants on every time I went out. I think every time I went out.
99.9%.
I put on clothes, I fixed my face, and I got behind a mic, and sometimes it wasn't glamorous and sometimes it paid off. But the grind is gone.
Yeah.
It's different now.
So do you think the social media following is important?
Yeah, and I hate to say it because I was one of those that is like, I'm an old school person and I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to, hey guys, so today, I hate it. But I've learned to love it in my own way, because it's just like people want to know you're real.
Yeah.
People want to see a little bit into your life. I talk about my kids, I talk about my husband on stage, and they're like, is that true? I want to see it.
Fair.
And then I get a lot of hits on videos that's just me and my kids in the car, or me and my husband talking about something stupid, I think people just want to see that you're a real person.
Yeah. What do you do outside of comedy that keeps the creative juices flowing?
Yeah, so I like to write. I write poetry, I write books, I write songs, I just write. I like to write. And I've always liked to write, but I also I like to write for TV. I like to get paid for my writing. That's always nice. I do bake and decorate cakes and things like that. I just started that in the pandemic, and that was a really good creative outlet for me, especially because there was no comedy at all.
Right.
But yeah, I think just even taking an hour to sit by yourself and just think of absurd things and write them down, it's almost like a creative release for me where I'm like, you know what, I need some time. It's like meditation for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Nice.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, you did shows. How did you find them? How'd you find them?
Yeah, so I did a lot of Zoom shows, right, during the pandemic. The only thing I think show-wise that came out of the pandemic that was great was the Minority Report, which was literally started with comedians like John Paul. He started by going, hey guys, I'm bored this weekend, let's all hook up online and just talk. And that's what we did. So the first time we just met up and we talked about how we were feeling and what we were going through, and it was so funny. I remember crying because we were just dying about stories and jokes and things that happen on the road and things that happen at the store, just stupid things. And then JP was like, man, I think I want to turn this into a show.
Nice.
And so then we started doing a show every weekend on Zoom, and we had a lot of people watching that were loyal and watching every time, and it kept me writing because I didn't have shows, so I wasn't really writing. And then because it was the same people that kept coming back every weekend, we would do our off the top brand new 5 minutes every week. Nice. And it's like, you're a comedian, you know who's writing 5 minutes every week. I mean, I'm lazy sometimes, you know, but technically that's what you should be doing, a brand new 5 minutes every week. Yeah, you know, so that kind of helped. And then when things opened up, we did silly shows like a car drive-through comedy show. Did you hear about that?
No. Oh wait, is that like so, the honk if you're laughing?
Yeah. So it's like downtown at like a big parking venue. What is that? A parking lot, I guess. And there's a stage and we're doing comedy and there's all these cars and we can't hear anyone laughing. Obviously they're in cars, but they'll beep if it's funny. It was so tough. It was
that's hard.
Because like, I don't know about you, but like I get road rage. Like driving through the city, if someone beeps at you right away, like my Brampton's like, what? Like, you know, so like I'm telling a joke, haha, hee hee. They're like, beep, beep. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you think I'm funny, my bad. Yeah, so I don't know, it just messed with me a little bit, but we did what we could, you know?
Yeah. I watched a couple pandemic like Zoom performances.
Nice.
And I was like, well, at that point I was only like a year into comedy. And I watched them and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna do that. Like I still don't even know if I'm funny. So just jokes into the dark and then you're just sitting there like,
oh yeah.
Hope you like that one. I'm gonna pause for the laughter I hope is happening on your end of the line.
Yeah, the worst is like the offices that were, you know, still working from home throughout the pandemic and we're saying like, we wanna boost morale. And so we're gonna get a comedian here every week, you know, and you go and everybody's mics off, everybody's cameras off. So you're literally talking to yourself. Like you deliver your joke and you wait and you're like, oh, nothing's coming. Next joke.
So
like it's just
weird.
You can see the defeat in your own face, which is huge and highlighted because everybody has to see it. But people don't realize you are also looking at you and the disappointment. That's like, is this what I'm doing with my life?
That's so funny. I mean, muting I get, but I would want the cameras on so I can see you go.
They probably use that time to like go to the bathroom or do whatever. They didn't care. You know what I'm saying? It's like
so true.
Oh, the worst.
That's
but
hilarious.
Once again, good money. So thank you.
Super grateful.
Got me through the pandemic, so you know.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. How did you find it coming out of the pandemic? Was it like new world, new comedy scene, or was it just like finally back to the ground?
No, you know, for me, it was like a shake-up moment. I always say like I have moments in my life where I can look back and go, that changed me. That changed my makeup. You know, it's like one of them, of course, like having kids, but you know, before that when my dad passed away, like it changes your makeup, it changes how you see the world.
Right.
But the pandemic was a thing that was like, oh my God, I could lose this forever. You know, because we were closed for a couple months and I'm like, oh, I can do a couple months. Actually, this is nice. I get to catch up on TV. I get to hang out with my family. And then it's like, no, it's a year. And then it's like more than a year. And I'm like, oh my God, did I lose the one thing that I love that makes me a good person at night, you know, that gives me that feeds my soul. Did I lose that? And so when things open, I just like, became a psycho. Whereas like, I was like, I have to do everything and I have to do it now because I don't know when it's going to be my last time.
Right.
You know?
Ooh. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So it really pushed my career forward. Like if you've been watching me, you know, like
always
I'm through my window. If you've been watching me, then you know like this past couple of years have really like I've gone like yes, but then like this, like it's been really a blessing for me, but I've put in that work.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
So would you say that Roast Battle Canada would have been like one of the first things to happen in the post-pandemic? Definitely. How did that come to be?
Yeah, so you know what, it's funny. So when I did season 2, because a comedian friend of mine called me up and was like, hey, I'm roasting this guy who's your friend. Can you help me out and write some jokes? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then I'm like, wait a minute, why am I not on the show? I am the most vicious roaster because of my Indian mother. who is the better roaster of everyone in this world, okay? But I'm like, why am I not doing this? So I called up the person at the time that was, booking. And I always say this, people don't realize, they look at all the things that I've done and they're like, oh, Crystal, you're so lucky you've gotten all those things, but it's always been a no first. Everything that you see me doing, it's always been a no first. So when I called up the person, I was like, hey, I want part of this show. That person said, oh, sorry, we've already casted for this season, but we'll try for the next season. And I was like, all right, cool, I tried. And then literally 2 weeks later, they called me back and said, hey, like somebody got COVID and they can't make it. And this is the problem. You only have a few days to write your roast jokes. And I was like, I just need an hour. Like,
no problem.
I'm there.
Who's my target?
No problem, right? So luckily I was going up against a very good friend of mine, Norm, who I love so much. He's so talented. And from there I knew I wanted to leverage that to obviously getting more seasons, but also getting in front of Russell. And so that's how I got to eventually open for him as well.
That's amazing.
And then I did season 2, then I did season 3, and maybe you might see me on season 4.
Whoa.
So
I hope so.
That's coming out, I believe, in the summer 2024, this summer.
Wicked. Viewing party?
I should, I did one for the first one because it was the first one, and then the second one I didn't because I'm like, we've done it. But you're right, we should always celebrate our wins.
Absolutely. I'm there.
I know, you were there for the first one. I won't forget it.
Wicked. So if you were to start comedy now from scratch, how would you get to booked shows?
Listen, there are so many resources right this second that any new comic can access, which is absolutely absurd if you think about it. Because when I started, it was like, no, you figure it out. But like I was just talking to Vong Show, who is such a vault of information about recording an album. And like I've been doing this for so long, you think I know everything. I know a lot, but I learned so much from him, and he's so accessible. Like, hit him up, go talk to him if you're thinking of recording an album. He has the information from like recording technical or like where, venues, how to get a good album and a good concept. And oh my God, I was there since, I don't know, noon, just talking, and I'm so blessed to even have that opportunity. But like up and coming comics have these resources. Hit me up, I'm cool. Like,
super cool.
Like if you want some info, like after a little bit, I'm gonna charge a little bit because I gotta eat too, you know. But I think there's so many resources. Look at, what I always say? I say, look at who's doing it the way you want to do it, and then go pay tickets to watch them. And then go talk to them. It's not that hard.
There's a lot. Facebook groups too, you can check out as well.
Exactly.
But I think that's key, is just not being afraid to like reach out to people and just ask, because I feel like especially like in this industry, like people are willing to give information. It's not like you're like, hey, I just started last week, give me a headlining spot. Like, no. Calm down, don't ask that. But like, hey, I'd love to pick your brain. I really respect you in the industry. I've never said no to anybody coming up to me and speaking to me like that. Never. Because I'm like, of course. Nice. That's awesome. When you're pitching to either new producers or any new shows, do you have like a package that you've put together to be like, this is who I am?
This is the beauty of social media, is that people can just Google you and see what you've done. So before you even walk foot into the building, they're like, oh, let me see who this girl is, what she's done. It's like, oh no, we want this girl. She's done this, this, and this. So I mean, you are, as a comedian, you are your own business. You are the pitch. So like, did you eat ass at the show yesterday and now you're asking for a headline spot? Like, that doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are the pitch. So remember that, you're the business. Right. How does your business look to people today?
Ooh, I like it. So keep your social medias up to date.
I know it's a pain in the ass, but
I know it is.
It's necessary.
Really is. For this day and age. As a comedian, what has been the hardest thing for you to keep going? Or what is some struggles that you've had as a comedian?
Struggles. Definitely, having kids changed my life.
Were you worried that like you wouldn't?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone said it. Everyone around me was like, well, she's not gonna. Listen, when I was pregnant, I wasn't getting bookings.
Really?
I wasn't getting bookings. I had to show up and be like, hey, I'm still working. Because like I legit did a show 4 days before I gave birth and 6 days after I gave birth.
That's nuts.
I was back on stage, so
damn.
I was still working throughout. But people just make that assumption as a woman, especially. It's like, oh, you have kids now, like you can't really come out. And it's like, no, actually, when I had my kids, it flipped a switch in me as well, because I looked at this beautiful, innocent person that I made, and I'm like, yo, I want to give you a better life than I had. Like I want to do everything I can to set you up to win.
Yeah.
So there's that, and then there's also the guilty side of like being a mom, where I'm like, I feel guilty when I leave.
Yeah.
When my kids like, mommy, I don't want you to go. Like, that was a real thing for when they were little toddlers and things like that. But I had a good support system. My husband's supportive. My mom's there to help me out. My sister-in-law is there to help me out. And I was like, it's okay. They're gonna understand one day. And honestly, they're 7 and 8, and they get it now. I'm like, oh, you want those nice shoes? Well, guess what?
I was just gonna say, like,
how
good
work.
do you want Christmas to be?
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was really important for me to teach them about money and how I make money, because they're like, it can easily look like I go out at night and I just I'm just like a street rat. Like, I sound like my mom. I'm a street rat. Well, who says that? Have you heard the word street rat?
That's Aladdin.
That's 1984.
Street rat.
That's right, Aladdin. Oh my God, that's so funny. And that's gonna be new now. I'm gonna use that often. But like, it looks like I just go out, like, and I have fun, which I do, because I love my job. But like, this is how I make money. I make money at night. And I explain to them, like, listen, like, mommy can drop you to school and pick you up, but at night, I'm not going to be there if you have a bad dream sometimes.
Yeah.
You got to go to daddy, or you got to go to grandma, or, whatever it is.
Right.
But a lot of mommies and daddies, they can't pick you up and drop you off. From school. So like, just be grateful that there's that. I'm there to do homework with you, but then later I gotta go. So
true. That's true. Have any of your kids shown an interest in the arts?
Yeah, both of them are really talented, to be honest, but my older one, she's like, it's just me in a littler person. And it's so terrifying. Like, she's so funny, she's so quick, and she's just like scary. It's scary. She's gonna be better than me for sure. And she sings and she dances, and like we hear her singing in the shower, and I'm like, this child has been past divorce 3 times, because she'll be like, why don't you want me no more, with the in her voice, and I'm like, yo, who hurt you, bro? Like, you're 8. Like, what happened? I'm like, oh my God. But like, she has this soul in an 8-year-old that I'm just
amazing.
like, wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Why I love that though? I love that because when I was a kid growing up in India, I would never even look an adult in the eye. Like, my head was down, that whole only speak when you're spoken to, especially as an Indian woman, we don't make noise. We're quiet. And I look at my daughter and I'm like, you're everything that I wanted to be. And you're at 8.
Yeah.
Like, I win. Like, my parenting job is over. You know what I'm saying?
I've done my part.
Yeah, because like, if she's like this now, like, she's gonna stand up for herself. She's not gonna let any man take advantage of her. She's gonna follow her dreams and not be afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty
amazing.
Of it. Yeah.
Ooh, that's awesome. Now, you were a therapist or social worker before, and you've quit your job.
Yeah. So I did behavior therapy.
Behavior therapy. So at what point were you like, okay, now I can fully commit myself to comedy?
Yeah, so I did behavior therapy for about like 11 years or something like that, and they were pretty good with like letting me, explore my comedy and give me days off when I needed and things like that. But at the same time, it would stifle me creatively, and I would feel like that 9 to 5 is prison for people that don't belong there.
Yeah.
You know, and it's fine for people that you know, that like it and that can live with it, but for a person like you and I that have this creative side of us, or not side, I don't like to call it creative side because that means it's just one part of me. Like I am the creative. You know, I feel so stifled in that atmosphere that once I just made this decision, it was probably not the right time, but it was the pandemic that shut me down because the office is closed and we couldn't go in and work with children. And then I worked with a couple clients on Zoom, but then I was like, no, like I can make money other ways. I was making money baking, I was making money writing, I was you know, doing other things, and I'm like, it's always going to be scary to leave your comfortable paycheck every week. So I just said, well, the pandemic happened, let me use this. And after the pandemic, I never went back.
Amazing. And how are you finding it? You're thriving, clearly.
Girl, I love this life. Like, look at all the things I've accomplished in this short time. And I honestly equate it to just me being creatively free, you know? And I'm not saying that people need to quit their job and go, because listen, ain't nobody, Trey Anthony said this, do you want to be sleeping on a couch while you're trying to make money writing jokes? Like, no, I don't. I want to live a little bit comfortably as well. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't want to worry when the next paycheck is coming. So I'm not like, quit, but I'm saying find other ways to slowly, you know, move you into that direction.
Right. Nice. That's awesome. Quit your jobs.
Don't do it. And then you're gonna call me for a loan, bro. Don't do it. I listened to the Creative Full-Time podcast. I quit my job and now I'm homeless. Crystal, help me.
Don't do it. Trust me.
But get there. You'll get there. Have faith in yourself and move towards that always.
That's awesome. So speaking of success, you're touring soon,
So last year I did a tour with a fellow comedian, Celeste Lampa from Alberta. She's amazing. I love her.
Nice.
We connected because I lived in Alberta for about a year, and she was pregnant at the time when I was watching her do comedy, and I'm like, oh my God, look at this. Look at her go, you know. I was like, damn, like this is what I strive to be, you know. And so I always tell her that I always remember her as that beast that was about to be a mom, but she's like, I'm still gonna do comedy. And that's how I was when I had my kids. So we did a tour called the Sweet and Salty Tour, because not only do we do comedy and we're moms, but we love food. She's a really good cook. You know, I can cook, I can bake, and our love language is food. Like, you know, that's it.
Love it.
So our tour is called the Sweet and Salty Tour, and last year we did Alberta, so we did Edmonton and Calgary, and then we did Toronto, which we did Kitchener and downtown Toronto as well at the Comedy Bar. And so this year we're really excited because we have like some cool sponsorship behind us that we can't talk about right now, but we will soon. And we're gonna do 4 provinces in Canada. We're gonna do Halifax, we're gonna do Winnipeg, we're gonna do Alberta, and we're gonna come home once again because we always come home to Toronto.
Have to.
And that final show in the summer, we're gonna do a double album taping. So
amazing.
It's long overdue, but my second album will be getting done this summer.
Wicked. That's so cool.
I'm
very excited. We'll have all the links and details down below.
Yes, because I need your support.
Absolutely. With an album recording, how much time do you need to record an album?
Okay, so I'm going to take this question 2 ways. So to record the actual album, you probably want at least 30 minutes of material. How much time it takes you to get to there depends on you.
Fair.
You know, you got to work out your stuff and make sure that it's cohesive, you know, make sure that it makes sense and what you're trying to say. You know, and that could take like 6 months. It could take a month if you're a beast with your pen, you know, and you're out there working and you're grinding. It depends. But I mean, also there's a 3-part to this question, because I'm like, I also took it as how long do you have to be doing comedy in order to do an album?
Oh yeah, also good question.
You know, because I find like nowadays a lot of newer comics have just started and they're like, boom, here's an album. And it took me a long time. I just did my first album in 2020. You know, and so that was like a best of. I felt like I had to learn and work it. But like I said, I have different expectations, and these up and coming comics are killing it. So, you know, they're not afraid to put bits out onto an album, because they'll just write a whole new 20 and they're they're killing it. So who am I to be like, hey, you shouldn't be doing it?
I'm super jealous of the new ones that are like, I've only been doing this for like a couple months, and here I am to do a full set, and I'm like, damn, I'm the bravery.
Exactly. Like, if you got the balls to do it, do it.
It's admirable for sure. For sure. But we like to finish up this podcast with a fast 5 questions. They're very easy and simple. What is your favorite food?
Oh, there's so many. No, I like food from all over the world. So like if I like pizza, because I love pizza, I like to eat pizza from all over the world. And then I also love like West Indian food. So oxtail is my favorite.
I was shocked.
You already know. I love oxtail, like good oxtail, not just any oxtail.
Not the chewy kind.
Not the chewy kind. I like certain like Indian foods. Like I love like a good naan and kebab. Like that's like, but I love all food. This is a long question. Moving on. I'm an effort. I'll eat anything. Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
When you go to perform comedy, what are 3 things you have to bring with you?
Your pants. No, I'm kidding. 3 things you have to bring with you. I always say record it, so your phone or a recording device.
Nice.
A friend that you could cry with after if it doesn't go well, and just your confidence.
Nice.
You gotta believe in yourself before anybody else does. Right? Yeah, that's it.
Wicked. What is a pet peeve you have?
In general? What gets on my nerves? So many things get on my nerves. Bad drivers get on my goddamn nerves.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm driving and I see somebody in front of me like walking, and then the person behind me is like, beep. I'm like, you want to kill this person?
Right.
What the hell? You can't see what I see.
Right.
And then when they drive by you and they grill you, and I'm like, yo, do you know who I am? Like, I will fight you. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I had a bad road rage. We can't talk about it.
I saw a post that was like, don't honk at me if you don't have time to fight.
That's me. That's me. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Right? Every time my boyfriend's like, don't give them the stink eye, I'm like, no, I'm waiting for them
I
to
do.
drive.
I do.
Like,
I do. And then it's like a poor little old lady, and you're like,
shit.
You can't stink eye an old lady, man. You can't do it.
I know. You just instantly feel bad. Whatever. Do you have a favorite comedian?
I have so many. I love watching Kenny. Not just he's my mentor, but he's so silly and he's so profound and intelligent at the same time. I do love Chappelle. I liked his new special, Sue Me.
That's a fan
that's who I'm feeling right now. And honestly, that Cat Williams interview killed me. I was like, he's smart, man. He's a really smart man.
Yeah, I find the best comics are very smart.
Yeah, and there's receipts.
And
like, whether you want to believe him or not, there's literal receipts on the internet that you're like, oh damn, he was right. He was right. Oh my gosh. So like, I used to think he was a little bit crazy. He's on drugs or whatever. Like, I believed the talk of the town about him. Now that I watched him, I'm like, wait a minute, maybe he wasn't that. Am I crazy? Like, because it's borderline, I feel. You're like, is he nuts or is he like serious? But that was entertaining. I know it wasn't like comedy, but that was entertaining for me.
Absolutely. I don't know how many questions I've asked you, but I'm going to ask you another one.
I think that was 4.
I think so too.
Yeah. One more.
I'm so good at this.
We're gonna ask you 5, 4, 3, maybe 6 questions.
Yeah, maybe 19 more. I don't know. What is a piece of advice that you would give your younger self starting out in comedy?
Speak up, bitch. Can I say
I thought you were saying that to me. I was like, do you want me to repeat the question?
No. Can I say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, speak up. Like, don't be afraid. That the culture really culture held me back. You know what I mean? And I just wanted to please my parents and please everybody. And it wasn't even, I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
It's following my dreams. Don't you want your children to follow their dreams? So speak up.
Nice.
Speak up.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I think that was 5 questions.
That was 5. That was 5 for sure.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much again for being on the podcast and being my guest and improving my life in many, many ways.
Oh, you're the best. This is great. Like doing a podcast, started comedy, took my course, and she's killing it. She runs a room. Go Google her because she's great. She's
Absolutely.
great.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this interview. I hope you learned a lot from it and inspired you to speak up and maybe start some comedy. If you wanted to do it. Hit up Crystal at Crystal the Comedian.
That's correct.
Thanks for watching and listening, and I'll see you in the next interview. Thank you for watching this interview. I hope you learned something and I hope you enjoyed hearing what Crystal had to say. If you like what you saw on this podcast or heard on this podcast, you can go to my website, AllisonMullings.com, and donate money so that we can keep this podcast going, get better and better guests, and help serve you better. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I hope you like and subscribe. Tell me your favorite part down in the comments, and we'll see you next time.